Why don't we make a start?
Okay, we're going to make a start now.
So, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending today. So we're presenting on a follow-on webinar from our session at the NIAC conference. That was the day before yesterday. And this is a slightly deeper dive in the digital maturity journey from chaotic to predictive organizations. So let me introduce myself very quickly in case you don't know me. My name is Jyoti. I'm the co-founder and CRO of Zenso. I've worked in the not-for-profit sector for over 25 years. And I'm really passionate about holistic thinking for both organizations and tech. Daniel?
Hi, my name is Daniel Hobson. I'm a senior CRM consultant at Zenso. So I've worked in CRM implementations and improvement projects for over 20 years. So as we go through this presentation, if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. Hopefully we'll have a few minutes towards the end, and we'll take your questions and do our best to answer those for you. So to start with, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my CRM journey. So I started in the early noughties as a professional. My profession was as a marketing data analyst, and this evolved into a CRM manager towards the mid noughties. So after 2 internal CRM roles, I moved into consulting. Common themes that I observed as both a consultant and as an in-house CRM manager was that neglected CRM systems can often slide into chaos. However, the warning signs are always there if you know where to look. The approach of a lot of organizations when things start to slip is to rip it up and start again. However, the current technology, the CRM system, isn't always a problem. In fact, it rarely is the problem. And replacing the technology in isolation is not going to cure the problem. So many organizations get stuck in a reactive loop with their CRM or EMS systems. So they implement a new solution and move their existing processes over. They'll make small incremental changes and fix any issues. And then often organizations will stop there. They'll fail to adopt new features and updates. They fix issues rather than future-proofing their system. This can lead to enthusiasm decreasing and software rather than adoption is blamed. The team internally feel that it no longer helps them achieve their business goals. And so what happens? They start to look for and invest in a new solution, and the cycle can start again. Now, this cycle typically can take anywhere between sort of 5 and 7 years, we've seen from experience. But what we want to think about today is what can we do to break this cycle? So digital maturity is a concept that considers how well organizations currently use their available technology. So in the presentation, we're going to explore this concept, and we'll share 8 key areas for you to consider to help you achieve digital maturity. So digital maturity is a spectrum which organizations evolve across over time. So the initial level is chaotic, where organizations struggle to derive any real value from their systems. And these organizations often spend too much time and too many of their resources on fixing errors, so that their systems don't necessarily provide a truly beneficial experience for their staff or their members. But then on the other end of the scale, mature organizations are predictive, and they focus on how their CRM or EMS system can support changing strategic goals. And they actively seek improvements to their processes and system usage. They use their system sustainably and adapt to changes quickly. Organizations that invest in their digital evolution derive greater value from their CRM. They move away from costly fixes towards having a solution that constantly underpins their strategic business goals and makes them agile. So this is the spectrum of digital maturity. I'm just going to run through what each of these mean, what each of these definitions are. So as an organization, as someone actively involved in your CRM system, you want to move from chaotic to predictive, or wherever you are today, either maintain where you are or have an ambition to move up to the next step. So chaotic organizations, creating efficiencies to enable your organization to effectively grow each year, even in down markets, will be difficult, as your current business success model can't achieve year-on-year sustainable growth. If your revenues are increasing, it's an anomaly, but not a methodology or business process. And it has specific financial and operational leakage issues.
Yeah, and a key factor in chaotic organizations is that people are doing a lot of action. There'll be action that is undertaken all over the organization, but when actions are not aligned to each other, and actions are also not aligned to some kind of core strategic pointer or direction or compass, then those collective actions may result in success if they're lucky. They may not result in success, but they're not sustainable on a particular path. So that's a key area of chaotic organizations.
Then we move to defined. So while your goals and your strategy are defined, it doesn't always feel like you and your team are on the same page. Your culture may be a barrier to improvement, and you may be exhibiting reactive more than proactive behavior, which is going to create varied and unpredictable success. So optimized organizations, your business model will include adopted processes, which may hinder your progress. You have integrated systems thinking, but lag in execution and guided behavior. You often will correct, but sometimes you're slow to recognize the need to change strategically. You may strive for, but don't always achieve proactive responses to challenges or opportunities. When we move to agile, this is where the business growth model has some best practice attributes that will help you grow year on year. You're using planned processes for continuous improvement. Some of your business structure may need to be adjusted to maximize your long-term organizational growth. You have a shared vision, you have flexible methodologies and an adaptable business model, and you have repeatable best practices and consistent success. Now, Utopia is becoming a predictive organization, and this is where your structure maximizes your organizational growth capabilities. You use interdepartmental alignment that focuses on strategy linked to action steps. You've built a sustainable pattern that should help foster continued success for you and your team. You're best in class, and you have predictable results. Smart use of business intelligence and actionable analytics underpin the success, and you're very good at early trend and problem recognition. And finally, you benchmark. You use external figures to understand where you are and gauge how successful you are.
And I think the key thing about predictive organizations is not that they have a crystal ball that they can see the future. What predictive organizations can do is they can predict their own success. So they're able to set goals and achieve them predictably. That's really what we mean by predictive here. So just to make that clear.
So at this week's IMS User Group conference in Melbourne, we asked attendees to complete a survey to assess their level of digital maturity. So if you can see on this chart here, excuse me, the results from the attendees are in blue, and the figures in red are seen from the top 10% of organizations. So the categories from strategy to continuous learning, data accuracy, etc. We're going to go through in more detail in this presentation, but the goal is to move from the lower scoring in each of those categories to the higher scoring. Okay. And we're going to give you some ideas of how to improve in each of these areas. Oh, sorry, before I forget, the QR code on the left there is how you can take this test yourself. So if you have your phone to hand, take scan the QR code. We will repeat it at the end of the presentation as well, so you can see how you benchmark. So what we're going to run through in the digital maturity session today, these components are strategy alignment, continuous learning, data accuracy, your integrated systems, your defined processes, system knowledge, web maturity, and AI readiness. So we're going to start with strategy alignment. So membership-based organizations are forged by long-term strategic purposes or missions which drive their strategic goals. So the first step, and this is really crucial, first step to getting maximum value from your CRM system is ensure that it's underpinning the achievement of these organizational goals. So to do this, an organization needs a technology strategy that aligns with the organizational strategy. So the technology that is being implemented is done so specifically to achieve organizational strategic goals. So a focused technology strategy will reduce costs, will help you prioritize projects, it empowers your staff in the right areas, and frees up resources to focus on key goals. Your CRM strategy should follow a top-down approach. It's sometimes tempting to look at narrow areas of your system and make incremental improvements based on day-to-day user feedback. But really, you should be focusing and prioritizing on making improvements that support your strategic goals and ultimately your organizational mission. So CRMs that show measurable results for both staff and members incorporate strategic goals. And these might include things like reducing operational costs, increasing revenue, growing membership or attendance at events, or making a system more robust or resilient. So the way that the chart is laid out here, think of it in these 4 steps. Your mission, your organizational board will have a mission, for example, to support new industry professionals. There will be strategic goals that underpin that. And these may be things like growing attendance to your annual conference. It could be boosting membership numbers or retaining membership numbers. And then when they are agreed and decided, that's when you start thinking about your technology strategy. And then under your technology strategy, this is where you get into the detail of your CRM actions. So strategy alignment. So be critical when deciding on and prioritizing what improvements or investments you should be making in your CRM technology. For example, how does investing in AI help me achieve my strategic goals? How exactly should we use AI? So just ask yourself this question. And if you can't answer that, then perhaps investing in AI, it's a buzzword, people are thinking about it. But if you can't answer that question in green, perhaps investing in AI isn't necessarily your priority. Your starting point with any CRM improvement or investment program should be to agree your strategic goals and then and make sure that they align with your organizational mission. Then you decide your CRM priorities. So strategy alignment is the first and most critical area to define in digital maturity. So these are the average results that we saw in Asia Pacific this week at our IMIS conference. The results suggest that some organizations could make improvements in this area. So I'd ask you to think about how you'd score your organization against these statements. Just a reminder, you can take the survey later.
Okay, so let's just revise quickly on what we've talked about on strategy alignment. So you can think of the mission or the vision of the organization as the why, the purpose behind why the organization exists and what it does. The the strategic goals are the what we do. And then the technical actions or measures, key performance indicators, these are really the how we do that. And the approach is to achieve the goals of the why and to measure the achievement of them through the how. What we see is predictive organizations at the top end of that maturity scale. They maximize their technology value because of very good alignment of technology strategy and actions with organizational goals and strategic priorities. Because this really helps them to work out what to prioritize on, what to focus on, and where to spend their energy, and also where not to spend their energy and where they're wasting their time on certain endeavors. So yeah, that focus really helps to bring long-term, sustained, predictable success in organizations.
Okay, the next area is it's continuous learning. So once strategic goals and technology actions are set, organizations must execute them efficiently to drive their success. So as with any strategic plan, there is a need to monitor progress and assess if any tweaks need to be made. Regular strategic process reviews are important to keep the organization on track and make necessary adjustments and identify the next steps to ensure that strategic goals are successfully achieved. So regularly reviewing processes, systems and activities is key to becoming more efficient and improving what you do. We often start by considering what staff and members find frustrating. You can think about this in 3 steps. So think of a scenario like member engagement. First step is, how are we measuring member engagement? Make sure you have a mechanism to do that. Then secondly, how do engagement scores vary over time or by segment? These might be the kind of things you want to consider. How do they vary by member type? And then thirdly, what factors are affecting this? What factors are affecting member engagement and how do we address this? So it's 3 steps. How are you measuring? How do engagement scores vary? And then what factors are affecting this? So let's think of an engagement related scenario. So the diagram at the top there, we've got a challenge. We're seeing seeing decreasing numbers of registrations for events amongst association members. That's our challenge. Our ideal situation is that registration levels are in line with other member types. Then we think about our technology solution. So we need to be measuring why registrations are lower. What can we find out? Is there an issue with the way we promote? Is there an issue with the relevance of our content? And once that has been established, you can think about what, from a CRM perspective, what do you need to change? Is it to improve your communications, start introducing smart nudges, tailor or personalize your content, or maybe it's as simple as making registration easier? Proactive organizations continuously measure and analyze how they're currently using their CRM, and they evaluate what can be improved. They have objective and actionable goals defined, and they have targets that are constantly adjusted based on data-informed learning. By measuring your progress and creating actions based on your learning, your organization will save money and time and achieve your desired strategic outcomes.
Okay, so your continuous learning really means continuously reviewing processes and systems regularly to see how they are progressing relative to strategic goals. There's a very simple loop that organizations go through. You execute a process, you measure the process, you analyze the measurement of that process to see what could be done better, and then you re-execute that process, and there's a continuous loop. It's a very simple process, but key to that loop is being able to measure it, because if you can't measure it, it's very difficult to analyze and improve what you're doing. So that loop, that measurement, that reflection on the measurement gives you a proactive strategic approach. And it really shifts the approach, the focus in an organization from being a reactive organization that's just reacting to problems that are coming up in your technology, to being someone that can change systems, improve systems to be more strategically aligned, or better able to, or better fit to be able to achieve your strategic goals. Because in predictive organizations, we see that their measures are objective, so they're not subjective. It's not based on opinion. They have facts and figures that are measurable, reportable against. Very often those reports are automatic, so they're automatically measuring. They can see dashboards in real time about how things are doing, because then they can tweak things in real time, so they don't have to wait for that cycle to completely finish. They can be doing small minor tweaks and incremental tweaks in real time. And they always set themselves up to be doing actions to improve what they're doing. So it's very easy sort of in mid-process to be able to tweak and improve the action based on measurements. So that behavior leads to predictive results in your organization.
So we're going to move on to data accuracy. So of course, data accuracy is essential for making informed decisions. Decision makers need access to real-time consolidated data and visualizations. So we have an acronym to think about with data accuracy. Who cares or cares? So for an organization to get value from its data, it must ensure that it is, and this is where the acronym comes in, C for clean. So we want no duplicates. We want to make sure that data is spelled correctly and formatted correctly. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be updated as close to real time as possible. For R, it should be regularly reviewed. So data has a tendency to become corrupt or dirty over time. E, it needs to be easy to segment. You should be able to group it into patterns and view trends. And then finally, S, data should be a single source of truth. So we've got a couple of interesting figures relating to data quality and usefulness in some CRM market studies. So Forrester's in their State of CRM market study said that 60% of employees noted that shared systems and accessibility would help create more value for their organizations. And secondly, they reported that half of all executives struggle to manage data quality. Another report from IMIS, their Membership Performance Benchmark Report 2025, found that data silos, incomplete data, and reporting inadequacies were cited as being amongst the biggest challenges in organizations that were surveyed. So when analyzing data, there are two common branches to consider. So first of all, think about your demographic data. So this is the type of data that informs us who the member is. It's often more static in nature, and it may relate to where they live, what their role is, what membership products or benefits they currently hold, or what their mailing preferences or interests are. A good strategy for keeping this data clean and accurate is to put it online in an accessible way for members to be able to regularly see and adjust if necessary. Trust your members to update this information. Having a 360-degree view of members is essential to help improve engagement. So, secondly, we have behavioral data. So this measures what members do. For example, are they attending events? Are they clicking on emails or visiting certain parts of the website? So data sets by their very nature in behavioral data are often larger and require tools like engagement scoring engines, or perhaps data snapshots to consolidate and aggregate them into useful scores and measures. Proactive organizations aren't just measuring data. They're analyzing it, comparing it, tracking it, and using it to decide what actions to take next. Teams are always aware of key metrics to measure and track against set goals.
Yeah, so just in summary, you've got to make sure the data is clean, but it's ready to be analyzed, it's ready to be reported against in order for it to be valuable. So your CRM system or your central reporting system needs to provide easy to use, accurate reports of both those demographic behaviors and the behavioral data to facilitate data-informed decision making. And we see that predictive organizations, they've got data and reporting which are clean, concise, accurate, automated, and regularly scrutinized and reviewed. Okay.
So integrated systems and the need for a single source of truth. There's been an explosion, as I'm sure you're all aware, of best of breed third-party tools and apps to manage tasks. So, for example, Active Campaign to manage member communications, Top Class for e-learning. No single CRM system can provide every function that you need potentially, but being tied to a single developer or supplier to support a bespoke integration is a significant business risk. Maintaining large amounts of custom code is similarly risky. So use solutions created using your CRM platform wherever possible. Work directly off the platform. Having data in multiple places increases the risks of data security or privacy issues and increases integration costs and risks. Having a single source of truth, well-integrated system means that you'll have more accurate and easier reporting, you'll have better member insights and targeting, and better organizational agility. So how to integrate? Integrations should ideally be made via standard APIs. You shouldn't rely on manually updating or uploading data. However regular these manual updates of data, you shouldn't rely on this kind of approach. It's important that data is synced promptly, either in real time or overnight. And the less custom code needed for integrations, the less risk and the cost of the organization is exposed to in maintaining these integrations. So at Zenso, we can help with your integration strategy using our Cloud Tools platform. So Cloud Tools brings together your membership systems and all of your third-party software using a single easy-to-use platform. Anything else to add on Cloud Tools?
Well, I think Cloud Tools is a band of systems called iPaaS, Integration Platform as a Service, and that's preferred over just custom code integration because it's not code type of integration. You've got systems that anyone can see, multiple people can go and edit, and you're not reliant on one particular developer understanding how an integration works. In addition to that, you've got layers like monitoring and reporting, and you've got pre-built integrations that you can just plug in and play. Now, in particular, while there are lots of these type of tools available, many of them are out of the budget of most membership organizations. And that's one of the reasons why we've made Cloud Tools, because it's a tool that can scale up to large volumes. We do membership payments for very large unions using Cloud Tools. And it can scale up without the costs scaling up incrementally because there's no per transaction costs. So it's a cost-effective way to reduce the risk, to reduce the effort, and reduce the amount of time spent on making integrations work for your organization. So let's just summarize very quickly on integrations. Talked about Cloud Tools, low risk, low cost. Predictive organizations always make sure that data is being written back to their single source of truth when they do need integrations. And they make sure it's done in a timely basis so that they can get the information for insights when and where that they are needed. That's going to ensure data accuracy. It's going to ensure that data security risks are minimized. And it's also then going to save staff time on being able to report, because you can run your reports in real time without some poor staff member having to pull data from 5 different systems in order to get a single report.
So we're going to move to defined processes now. So defined processes ensure that staff perform tasks as expected. They should help improve data accuracy, should reduce errors, and they should free up staff to focus on high-value objectives. it's really important to regularly review your processes and your process documentation to make sure that it's still accurate. Your documentation should be clear and easy to access. So no process is perfect. So every process needs to be reviewed and improved over time as your technology and your environments change. But by starting off with a clearly defined process, it gets all staff doing the same thing. And then if that process needs to be improved, it can be done so across the organization. Documentation is painful. The reason that it gets neglected is because it's time consuming and often you don't know where to start. So just think about what tools you can use to help you with your documentation. AI can help you create polished process documents. What I would say is proofread it. AI documentation is not the start and end. It will help you get to the end point.
Yeah, maybe I can just interject there also with the use of AI, because everyone's, waxing lyrical about how good AI can be for documentation. And yes, it can save you a huge amount of time. But AI is not going to think for you. In fact, AI can't think. What AI can do is shorten the amount of time between your thought and the action that you want to output. In this case, documentation, the creation of documentation. So you can jot your thoughts down in bullet points and ask AI to turn that into readable documentation, which it will be very good at. But you need to provide the original thinking for this. It's not going to just be able to pull documentation out of the blue for you. It can give you some examples of how other people have documented it, but always apply your thinking in the beginning, and then let AI do the acceleration towards getting the final product out.
Okay. So other things to think about are tools for creating step-by-step guides. Scribe is a great one for this. Also think about using things like transcripts from Teams or other meeting tools. These can be a really useful starting point when creating your documentation. Again, using transcripts, you could feed them into AI as a starting point for your documentation. But as Jyoti said, be wary of the outputs, critique them.
Okay, so in summary, defined processes help to set clear expectations for what your staff or your members should be doing. If you get your processes documented, that will ensure that staff or members are performing a particular task or process consistently. And when you've got a documented process that everyone is adhering to, that's one place that you need to improve your process. If everyone's doing different processes around your organization because it's not documented, it's much, much more difficult to improve that process because there is no single process. And what we see in predictive organizations is that they all have their processes fully documented, they keep them up to date, and they've got systems to regularly review and schedule reviews for looking at those processes, analyzing them, and trying to improve them.
We're going to move on to system knowledge now. So what to think about here is making training and information accessible, training for your CRM system. So include how to access technical support or online training materials wherever possible. So when choosing a supplier or an implementer, ask what training they provide. When thinking about training system knowledge amongst your staff, think about encouraging them to complete a certification to help build their knowledge and confidence and use training plans. Think about having a CRM champion or champions in your organization, someone who will take ownership of and really can relay the benefits of the CRM system and the workings of the CRM system and can share this amongst your wider team. These champions can also help drive projects forward and help encourage staff to engage. It's still important to have documentation and other staff trained. So if the champion leaves, it's not the end of the world. They're not leaving and taking all of the knowledge with them. So involving your CRM team will help your keeping your staff well informed and part of future solutions. So the ASI Learning Hub is a great resource for training material and it's available by role. So 800 organizations have subscribed to the ASI Learning Hub. So would really encourage you to get on board. Would also recommend thinking about drip feeding your training. It's not just about dedicating whole hours or days to training. Think about how you can drip feed users tips or tricks and other information about new features. And then finally, think about using in-context help directly within your CRM system. Think about using on-page prompts or even bots to help within your system.
That really helps in for people that learn by doing. There's different people. Some people learn by reading. Some people need training. Some people learn by doing. So that in-context help is really important there. So let's just look at the key takeaways on this. Make sure that your training resources are readily available to all staff that are using the solution. Make sure they know where to go for help. Prioritize your system knowledge for the whole team, not just the techies, so that the whole team can keep adopting new features and are aware of new features as they come out. And what we see in predictive organizations is that they have well-trained staff that are properly certified by whatever software system they use to do their jobs. And systems training and technology training is part of staff training plans. It's incorporated into the training plans and onboarding process for staff.
Digital maturity also depends on member experience, of course. So website member portals tailored to members' individual needs based on CRM data, based on your CRM data. It is important to consider. I mean, is it visually appealing? Is it easy to navigate? Your members should be able to manage the following with no staff intervention. They should be able to manage their membership. They should be able to access their benefits. So booking onto courses and events. They should be able to access resources. And ideally, they should be able to network with their peers through forums or groups. A single sign-on experience is a great addition if you can provide that. And in terms of your online member recruitment, is the process simple? Are there minimal steps? And is making a payment easy? Reduce your drop-off levels there. Your onboarding process also needs to flow automatically. And think about, are you providing fast access to benefits for your members? So consider the use of your website across all of your key areas, your transactional processes. How's your data being captured? How complex are your processes? How accessible and searchable is your document library? Of course, you need to think about your digital ecosystem as a whole. It's not just limited to your website. So are you using mobile apps? Push notifications used responsibly are great for engagement. Just don't overdo them. So finally, think about your multi-channel communications across email, SMS, other messaging services, and of course your website.
Yeah. So when you look at the key takeaway, we see that predictive organizations, they've got websites and member portals or member interfaces, should we say, because that now includes mobile apps, it includes wearables, watches, even your fridge can be a member interface. But all of those interfaces should encourage member engagement with the organizations. So these predictive organizations, they've got tailored, engaging journeys. So they actually use member journeys across multiple interfaces, across multiple devices for their members or their customers. Their products, their offerings, their services are easily discoverable across those interfaces. They're easy to buy from, they're easy to use, and they should require minimal staff intervention. And they're giving a high value member experience across all those interfaces. So the member experience is ideally seen as an extension of your single database, your single source of truth, with all data coming from and being captured back into that single source of truth.
Okay. Moving on to AI maturity. So AI is fast developing. We all know that. It's also a highly disruptive technology. So use and regulation is likely to change. It could change considerably in the foreseeable future. Thinking about data, good AI always relies on good data. So to understand your AI maturity, think also about your data readiness. And think about how to keep your data safe when using AI. So prioritize your use and be agile when thinking about AI. Identify what AI tools can be used to automate or streamline tasks. For example, membership onboarding can be a good process to streamline with AI agents, potentially. Prioritize initially based on ease of implementation and staff impact. And importantly, learn before tackling complex stuff. And expect to fail. This is really still an emerging technology. It will take a while to get it right. Many systems have got automated tools for communications creation or built-in agents. Off-the-shelf solutions are always preferable to the time and money required to build some kind of bespoke AI tool. But it pays to understand and try the AI tools currently available before looking to implement bespoke solutions. You can think of AI maturity in 3 steps. So first of all, build your base. Ensure your data or documentation is AI ready. Document and understand your processes and identify why high levels of manual effort could be easily replaced. Stage 2, think about adding agentic AI or bots. AI bots can answer members' common questions in plain language. Generative AI can draft communications accurately without having to maintain complex mail merge templates. And then think about deployment of AI agents. So actionable personalized AI assistance helps members get information and act. Mature organizations have multiple agents across their different organizational domains, which can interact with each other for optimized member experience. It's also really important to consider creating an AI and data ethics policy, which will include things like what can staff use AI for, what can't they use AI for, and make sure that they're not exposing sensitive data, your membership data. So here are a couple of snippets from market studies that refer to AI investment. So again, from IMIS's report, 34% of respondents have invested or are planning to invest in AI. From KPMG, 56% of their respondents believe that AI will fundamentally change their business in the next year. And 67% believe that it's going to fundamentally change their business in the next 2 years. A report from Salesforce that said that almost all respondents have plans to adopt AI, but don't have a defined strategy to do so. The reason I pulled this out is because of the importance of having a strategy. Think about how it's going to be implemented, how you're going to use it before just going, everyone's on board the AI train. We need to get on board as well.
Okay, so just to summarize, start experimenting with AI. It's an emerging technology. Start playing, start familiarizing yourself. When it comes time to implement, look for the simple opportunities that can streamline and automate the process. Start simple, learn through adoption on simple things, and then expand into more complicated things. And be prepared to iterate and to adapt, because technology is going to change. The tools that we're using are going to change. What we see is that ultimately predictive organizations in this space, and there's very few at the moment, predictive organizations that work in the AI space, will have AIs which coordinate and complete complex tasks across multiple domains. So it might be you have an AI bot on your CRM system talking to an AI bot on your finance system, and these AI bots can hand over tasks from one system to another seamlessly. So for the member, they would just see a seamless experience. But they can complete tasks and do actions like register a member for an event. They can do this autonomously. And then if they run into trouble, then they can escalate to a human where needed. So they can run without human intervention until they run into a problem, and then they can escalate easily to humans. That's the predictive behavior that we ultimately want to aim for, but start simple.
So we're going to move into our conclusion. I'll keep that with you, Jyoti.
Okay, so firstly, digital maturity, it really considers the strength of how you're using technology. Digital maturity isn't a thing you can just achieve overnight and one and done. It's a journey. It's a spectrum, and it takes a number of steps to get there. So it requires planning to get to what stage. And the first step is understanding where you are now. So you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a QR code for our digital maturity assessment. That can really help you understand where your organization is now. And I'll talk about how do we plan to move up a few notches on that digital maturity spectrum. It's important when you consider digital maturity, not just to be focused on one thing like strategy only. We've built these 8 measures with a lot of consideration to help you get a broad understanding of your digital maturity, particularly the maturity around your core CRM system. So we want you to understand your performance in multiple areas. And your CRM system should be providing staff and members with the resources, the tools, to be able to achieve the organization's strategic goals. It should be immediately apparent how to do it in the CRM. So by making incremental changes, your organization can get true value from your CRM and true progression in that digital maturity journey. So please, I would recommend everyone take the digital maturity assessment. You automatically get an email with a summary of where you are in the process. But there is a further step, and this is what you can do if you want to move forward. We've got a program called a Digital Success Program. And the Digital Success Program is where we come and give you a much more detailed, so rather than just simple 7 or 8 questions, there's a detailed questionnaire around those 8 areas. And what we do is based on that, we come up with a plan for where you are now and how you move to the next step of digital maturity. We create a year-by-year plan. We work with you on that. We work with you on the execution of that. We help you measure progress, review things, and then work out how to prioritize things for the next year. So that's all part of our digital success program. You can read more about it on our website under solutions. Solutions, you'll find digital success. That's on zenso.com. Who are Zenso? We're a membership CRM implementer, integrator, and developer. We work with multiple systems, predominantly IMIS, and we've just been doing this for years and years. We've got hundreds of CRM implementations and projects under our belt. And we really are invested in making our clients succeed. We've got over 140 clients globally, and their success is our success. So we're 10 minutes before time. What I'd just like to do is maybe throw open the floor to questions. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat, or just raise your hands and we'll try and unmute you. Okay. Oh, no one's got any questions. Does that mean we're so succinct in what we were presenting that
No, we do have a question.
Okay.
Just let me get that.
So Chinoa, I think we've tried to unmute your mic.
I found it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. This might be like a little bit in the weeds, but I've been thinking a lot for a while about single source of truth. And for organizations I've worked for in the past, and also NZI Te Reo when I work for now, there's this constant issue with not wanting to bulk up your membership system, which has your financial records, with a whole bunch of action data, which may include kind of community supporters as well as potential members. And every time you start integrating action platforms and, you know, so events or petitions or anything like that with your membership system, you just end up with a whole bunch of like a duplicate issue then you then have to solve, and also trying to categorize the potential members from the community supporters. So I'm just wondering, yeah, if you had any kind of quick advice or if it was useful at all around how you can move to a single source of truth when that's the real issue.
And actually, that's a very common question, which is becoming more and more relevant because we've got systems. If you've got a mobile app, or just if you're capturing website behavioral statistics, what pages people are visiting, what they've clicked on, when they've clicked on it, email statistics, all of these things is creating big data. And CRM systems, they're relational databases. They're not great at big data. So what we recommend in this situation, and we do have some solutions for this. We actually use cloud tools for this in many situations. Is you have a big data repository, and that may actually be in those behavioral sides, those data silos that you have. Don't bring all the data over into your CRM because bringing big data into a CRM clogs it up. Bring aggregated data over. So if you can, for example, rather than bring, say, for example, every page someone has visited over into your CRM system, you might aggregate that data in a separate system and say, bring over the 10 most popular pages that this person visits and the 10 most recent pages that they visit only. You could do engagement scoring type of things on mobile analytics because apps like Facebook and Instagram, they capture a huge amount of information and we would never ever want that in the CRM. But if you can aggregate that data externally and just bring a score or an aggregated number over from those systems on a regular basis, that's much more usable for reporting and segmentation inside your CRM.
Yeah, I understand. I've worked in places where we've had data lakes before and things like that. I guess that just also requires like more staffing capacity, right? And that's probably just the answer, is that then you've got to have either agencies or in-house capacity to manage something like a data lake and doing all the integrations into that. And then once it's aggregated, flowing that through into the CRM.
Yeah, and this is really the hidden cost. We keep getting bombarded with cool best practice tools to use, mobile apps and all these things, which can capture huge amounts of data. And if there is a hidden cost with all these things that you should consider, how much effort is it going to take to bring some kind of aggregated data, some kind of indication back into my single source of truth for me? And that's the cost of either someone to maintain that or the cost of a service to integrate the summary data back into your CRM.
We're not as sophisticated as that yet. Really, it's just particularly even at the level of like petition data and events-based data in terms of physical events, like people signing up to webinars and meetings across the country and things like that. Even to that level, you've got a certain amount of people have, 3 to 4 emails sometimes, and you end up with a lot of duplicates. And yeah. Anyway, I'll stop rambling, but I think I've got the answer from you that you think data lake is the way to go.
Well, definitely for big data, you've got to store it in a different way. We actually use a non-relational database to store that data, and then we aggregate it in a way that it can be brought back into relational systems without clogging them up.
The one final point I would think is just be critical about what data is really useful. It may sound fantastic to be able to have access to huge amounts of data, but what is really providing value to you? Focus on that. Focus on getting that data into your CRM and aggregating that data. Don't try and get everything in.
Yeah, and for a lot of the campaigners and organisers that have worked with, tools like Nation Builder and other kind of CRM and action-based combined that have events and petition capabilities within it, you get quite used to being able to use live event RSVP and attendance data for organising practices, and so maybe it's starting with that stuff. Thank you.
Just also on that, we actually made a tool called Web Tools, not Web Tools, WebSense. Sorry, we make a tool called WebSense, which took everyone's interactions, every single page someone visited, where they came from, where they went to after the page visit, how long they spent reading the page, what device they're on, all of that information. It pulled it into the IMIS database. And we sold it to a couple of organizations. And then what we found very quickly, it just blew up the IMIS database. The amount of data was just phenomenal coming into the IMIS database, and everything got clogged up. So
Yeah.
we're busy working on version 2, which is doing precisely what I said. Put it into, it's called a MongoDB. It's a big data repository which can handle large amounts of data and then aggregate and bring back. So that's the best strategy for that.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to go to an expensive sort of third-party data lake type of tool, but it requires input, maintenance, effort.
Yeah, thank you. That's
great.
great.
Thank you for your questions, Shanoa. Do we have any other questions? We're almost at time, but happy to take anything else. Okay, I think we will wrap it up. So thank you everyone for joining this morning, or whatever time it is where you are.
We will send you a copy of the slide deck, so you've got that for your own thing. And then remember, that slide deck has the QR codes and it has the benchmarks of what we had from the seminar on Tuesday, and also the benchmark for high-performing organizations. That data is coming from ASI, so you can compare your organization to other organizations and benchmarks.
Great. Have a lovely